Blessings and welcome to Eartheart Radio. Finally beginning to awaken from the illusion of separateness and broadcasting live from the KSKQ studios in beautiful Ashland, Oregon. Here's your host, Derek Moody.
It's so great to have everybody tuned in today. And, since the corona lockdown kind of thing happening, a lot of people are tuning into radio. I was making a list last night of all the positives that are coming out of this. And you know what? I ran out of paper. Not quite. But, I made a big list. And there's a lot of positive stuff happening. And I think next week on this show, I'm going to highlight what I'm talking about by actually making that happen. I'm going to make a list and share with you guys. And maybe it'll encourage you to make your own list of positive things happening despite being told to stay home and that kind of thing. Need to adjust my headphones here, my friends. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's another Sunday, and I'm very grateful to everyone listening to the show today. It is an intimate audience, lots of folks wanting music and news and entertainment, but there's a small number of truth-seeking souls, seeking wisdom and a path of love and compassion and high frequencies. Today, you'll hear harmonious music, and I'll deliver positive news. And in these trying times and semi-scary days, we must try to ease the suffering of others in any way possible. I'm delivering 1 hour of positivity today. This is the bone temple we are residing in. The world is a temporary and illusory existence. We are being tested. We are going through the Kali Yuga, and the Bhagavad Gita clearly states that all this would be happening. Today I am presenting something different on Eartheart Radio. Something for you to listen to and to dig into a bit. It's a speech pre-recorded, of course, by the late, great Terrance McKenna. Terrance McKenna was an American ethnobotanist, mystic, psychonaut, lecturer, author, and advocate for the responsible use of naturally occurring psychedelic plants. Terrance McKenna spoke and wrote about a variety of subjects, including psychedelic drugs, shamanism, metaphysics, alchemy, language, philosophy, culture, technology, environmentalism, and the origins of human consciousness. He was called the Timothy Leary of the 1990s, and I'm happy to present a pretty cool speech of his entitled, Decondition Yourself from the Lie of History, right here on KSKQ Radio and the Eartheart Radio Show. Thanks for being here, guys.
Okay, now I will talk a little bit about what I've learned from psychedelics. I feel self-conscious doing it, but on the other hand, wouldn't it be stupid for me to talk about what you've learned from psychedelics? That would add presumption to the sins already arrayed here. There are different models about what the psychedelic experience is. Here's a couple. Building on Western psychotherapy as elaborated by Freud and Jung, one view of what psychedelics are is it's the part of your mind that you'd rather not do business with. It's the memories of childhood neglect or abuse. It's repressed, kinky fantasies. It's, in other words, the Freudian idea of the unconscious, that somehow these are drugs which dissolve the boundary between conscious and unconscious mind, and then you can do accelerated psychotherapy because resistances have been pharmacologically overcome. That's one model. It's good as far as it goes. It just doesn't go far enough. Then there's another model, which I would call the traditional or shamanic model. And it says the cosmos is a series of levels. And these levels are connected by vertical routes of access, which can be thought of as simply flights through space or magical trees or magical ladders. Anyway, there's an image of ascent. And ordinary people exist on only one of these levels. But a shaman is not an ordinary person. A shaman is a superhuman person who has the power of animal allies behind them, and they can go up and down in these elevators that move between levels, and they can therefore recover lost souls, see social hanky-panky, theft and adultery, see the causes behind that, see the causes behind disease, so forth and so on. That would be the traditional one. What I have concluded after 25 years of fiddling with this is that both of those ideas have a certain something to recommend them, but that they don't go far enough, and that we get more to the meat of this if we leave off psychological, the first explanation, or sociological, the second explanation, and actually go for something a little more formal, to wit, a mathematical model of what shamanism is. And what I mean by that is, let's think about what shamans do. They cure disease, and another way of putting that is they have a remarkable facility for choosing patients who will recover. They predict weather, they're very important. They tell where game has gone, the movement of game, and they seem to have an paranormal ability to look into questions, as I mentioned, who's sleeping with who stole the chicken, social transgressions are an open book to them. Well, thinking about this from a mathematician's point of view, an all-encompassing explanation that would explain how all these magical feats are done is simply to suppose that the shaman is somehow able to project his consciousness, his or her consciousness, into a higher dimension. Not metaphorically, as in Sylvester Stallone has many dimensions, not metaphorically, but literally, as in 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimensions, and 4. Because if you could move into the 4th dimension, the dimension orthogonal to Newtonian space-time, seeing what the weather is going to be next week is as easy as seeing what the weather is now. Seeing where the game went is as easy as seeing where the game are. Knowing who stole the chicken is simply defined by looking to see who stole the chicken. And I have noticed that all of biology, not simply shamanism within the context of human society, but all of biology is, in a sense, a conquest of dimensionality. That as we ascend the phylogeny of organic life, what animals are a strategy for conquering space-time. And complex animals do it better than simpler animals. And we do it better than any complex animal. And we 20th century people do it better than any people in any previous century, because we can bind data in so many ways that they couldn't, electronically, on film, on tape, so forth and so on. So the progress of organic life is deeper and deeper into dimensional conquest. Well, from that point of view, then, the shaman begin to look like the advance guard of a new kind of human being. A human being that is as advanced over where we are as we are advanced over people 1 million years ago, because we have very elaborate strategies for coding the past. It's a dimensional conquest. So that's part of what I've learned about psychedelics, and I could have left it there, but I never do. I always want to bring more in under the umbrella of whatever metaphor it is that's being pushed. And what I have discerned is that time is actually speeding up, that the universe is not what physics tells us it is. Physics tells us that the universe is a physical system, an entropic system that was born in immense energy and chaos and will run down with a bang, with a whimper, not a bang, run down into heat, entropy, and dissipation. The psychedelic data on this is completely different. The psychedelic data says what that model left out was biology and mind. Now, biology, you might imagine, is a fairly ephemeral, recent, fragile phenomenon. It is not. The average star in this galaxy gutters out after about 700 million years. Not our star. We happen to have the good fortune to be around a very stable, slow-burning star. But there has been biology on this planet at least 2 billion years. 3 times the average life of a star. So biology is not some Johnny-come-lately epiphenomena. Biology is a phenomenon more persistent than the life of the stars themselves. And biology is not a static thing. A star evolving now is not greatly different from a star evolving 1 billion years ago. Biology doesn't work that way. Biology constantly changes the context in which evolution occurs. The way I have downloaded this into a phrase is the universe is, the biological universe at least, is a novelty-conserving engine. Upon simple molecules are built complex molecules. Upon complex molecules are built complex polymers. Upon complex polymers comes DNA. Out of DNA comes the whole machinery of the cell. Out of cells comes simple aggregate colony animals like Hydra and that sort of thing. Out of that, true animals. Out of that, ever more complex animals, organs of locomotion, organs of sight, organs of smell, complex mental machinery for the coordinating of data in time and space. This is the whole story of the advancement of life. And in our species, it reaches its culmination and it crosses over into a new domain where change no longer occurs in the atomic and biological machinery of existence. It begins to take place in this world which we call mental. It's called epigenetic change, change which cannot be traced back to mutation of the arrangements of molecules inside long-chain polymers, but change taking place in syntactical structures that are linguistically based. And people have probably been using language with considerable facility for probably 50,000 years, possibly more. In our own time, we have created ever more elaborate languages, ever more elaborate technologies for transforming, storing, and retrieving language, so that we are actually on the brink, of being able to give every single one of you the complete cultural inventory, the complete database of human beings' experience on this planet. That's what these data highways and networks are all about. The nervous system is being hardwired. But what I wanted to draw your attention to about this is it is not only an advance deeper and deeper into novelty, but it's an advance in which each successive stage occurs more quickly than the stage which preceded it. So, once you get the Big Bang, then nothing much happens for a long, long time. I mean, there's plasma streaming through the universe. The universe is slowly cooling, but that's the most dramatic, complex process in the universe, this cooling. Then, after a certain point, more complex processes come in. Complexification begins to build, and as it builds, it begins to happen faster and faster and faster. And the great puzzle in the biological record is the suddenness of our own emergence, human emergence out of the primate line. It happened with enormous suddenness. Lumholtz calls it the most explosive reorganization of a major organ of a higher animal in the entire fossil record. And that's, a great embarrassment to the theory of evolution, because this is the organ which generated the theory of evolution. We're not talking an appendix or an eyebrow here. We're talking the very organ which generated it. I think that we have taken far too much responsibility for what is happening, and that what we took to be a staircase we were climbing is actually an up escalator. And if you will stop climbing, you will notice that it does not impede your upward progress, because the ground you're standing on is moving you toward the goal. And I think that this idea, which may be the proof that I'm bonkers, requires a fairly radical reorganization of consciousness. Because what I'm saying is the universe was not born in a fiery explosion from which it has been being blasted outward ever since. The universe is not being pushed like that from behind. The universe is being pulled from the future toward a goal that is as inevitable as a marble reaching the bottom of a bowl when you release it up near the rim. If you do that, the marble will roll down the side of the bowl, down, 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 and eventually it will come to rest in the lowest energy state, which is the bottom of the bowl. That's precisely my model of human history. And now, bear in mind what the competition is peddling. The competition is peddling the idea that the universe sprang from nothing in a single moment for no reason. Now, whatever you think about that, notice that it's the limit case for credulity. Do you understand what I mean? I mean, if you can believe that, it's hard for me to imagine what you would balk at. If we were to sit down and say, let's see who can think of the most unlikely thing that could possibly happen, I submit to you, nobody could top the Big Bang. It is the improbability of improbabilities. It is the mother of all improbabilities right there. So I'm suggesting something different. I'm suggesting that the universe is pulled toward a complex attractor that exists ahead of us in time, and that our ever-accelerating speed through the phenomenal world of connectivity and novelty is based on the fact that we are now very, very close to the attractor. All Western religions have insisted that God would come tangential to history, but they all lose their nerve when you ask when, which is the only interesting question about that hypothesis. I mean, if it's not now, then what the hell difference does it make? It's just pissing in the wind as far as I can see. I think that the very real social crisis that is upon us, the crisis of population, of resource depletion, of atmospheric degradation, of epidemic disease, all these crises indicate that we are now down to the short epochs of this process of universal ingression into novelty, and that in fact it makes no sense whatsoever to speak of a human future. There is no human future. It's inconceivable, given where we are today, that to speak of the human world 1,000 years from now or 500 years from now. It is literally, it either doesn't exist or it's beyond our power of imagining. It isn't simply going to be non-polluting cars and smaller hi-fi speakers. I mean, that's an idiot's notion.
Better pictures of today.
Yeah, clearer TV pictures it isn't like that at all. I mentioned this morning, how when you look at only one line of technological development, automobiles or computers, it looks like you can rationally anticipate what's going to happen. But when you realize that there are thousands of these lines of development, all transforming themselves, all moving towards some kind of omega point, then you realize that we're in the grip of what I call a concrescence. And I maintain that you don't have to believe me on this. You can see it from here. You just have to climb a high hill. There's one, it's called psilocybin. There's one, it's called ayahuasca. The view from the tops of these hills is of the concrescence. It lies now closer to us than the Johnson administration, for God's sake, in time. And, I have an elaborate mathematical theory to back this up, which you should gratefully learn. You are not going to be flayed with this afternoon, but I think it's going to become more and more important for people to delinearize their view of time. Decondition yourself from the lie of history. After all, if time were space, history would be a spider web. So bear that in mind.
Thanks for listening to Eartheart Radio. Love everyone. Serve the people. Remember God. KSKQ.
Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters. Thank you for listening to that speech from the great Terrance McKenna. And I would like to take this opportunity to say any views or opinions expressed are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily represent those of KSKQ. It's KSKQ's mission to produce community radio that empowers the residents of the Rogue Valley, builds sustainable and resilient communities through the exchange of ideas and the celebration of cultural diversities. I am Derek Moody, happy to be the host of the Eartheart Radio Show, where each week it's just an experiment into the science of everything. I like to present different shows each week, community, spirituality. Next week, I have a guest that we'll be speaking with on the phone. He's a really awesome comedian, stand-up comic, and there's a new documentary film that has just been released about him. His name is Dustin Wood. And the documentary is actually called Be Here Now. So that caught my attention, and I invited him to be a guest on the show next week. So we will chat with comedian Dustin Wood. I know he's from either Northern Cali or maybe Klamath area of Oregon, but we'll find out more about Dustin Wood next week on the Eartheart Radio Show. Eartheart Radio Show does have a Facebook page as well. Always open to suggestions. I would like to say that our very own Dave Munson is offering free compost for people who want to grow food and can't afford it. What a guy, man. I love Dave Munson. Did you hear that, man? Dave is offering free compost if you want to grow food but can't afford it. All you have to do is call Dave Munson at 541-851-1333. That's right, 541-851-1333. Much love to brother Dave Munson. Underwriting support for KSKQ comes from the Medford Food Co-op. Medford Food Co-op nurtures a vibrant, healthy community and abundant local food system with organic produce, sustainable meats, gourmet cheeses, and a wide selection of gluten-free, vegan, and vegetarian options. The cafe offers fresh meal solutions for busy schedules, including house-made hot soups, custom sandwiches, creative salads, and a variety of hot entrees. Medford Food Co-op and the cafe are open daily 7 to 9 at 945 South Riverside, just north of Barnett, online at medfordfoodcoop.com. My friends, you are at the Eartheart Radio Show. We do have positive news just ahead. I always like to take time to thank the people that listen to the show. And I want to take this opportunity to give a big thank you to the person that actually named this show. That's right. It took me a while to figure out what to call the show. And then I texted my friend Red and I said, hey, do you have any ideas? And it must have been 10 or 15 minutes. She sends back Eartheart Radio. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was spelled EARTH, EART. So the H was shared in Eartheart. And that became the name of the show and the official spelling. So thank you to Red and also to Bob, if you guys are listening right now. Because Eartheart Radio Show was a perfect name for this show. And this is show number 29. So one show away from having 30 episodes, and that's cool. Thank you, Red. What else? We've got the Saint Spotlight on the way, but right now I would like to thank Aida Celeste, who's listening in Florida. Jimbo Middleton's tuned in. Doug Shields in Pekin, Illinois. My good friend Brenda Roche in Medford, or maybe she's in Phoenix now, Oregon. But Brenda's listening, and she's a regular listener. And thank you for the good ideas also, Brenda, for guests. Don in Omaha. That's my dad. He's tuned in, I think. Chris Strow and also Chris Bender, Brother Bender, is tuned in. This is a song from an album called Rumi Reggae, Volume 1, Ancient Wisdom for the Modern Soul, and the song is called The Guest House, right here at the Eartheart Radio Show in KSKQ.
Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. An eye is meant to see things. The soul is here for its own joy. A head has one use, for loving, a true love, legs to run after. Love is for vanishing into the sky, the mind for learning what men have done and tried to do. Mysteries are not to be solved. The eye goes blind when it only wants to see why. A lover is always accused of something, but when he finds his love, whatever was lost in looking comes back completely changed. On the way to Mecca, many dangers, thieves, the blowing sand, only camel's milk to drink. Still, each pilgrim kisses the black stone there with pure longing, feeling in the surface the taste of the lips he wants. This talk is like stamping new coins. They pile up while the real work is done outside by someone digging in the ground.
Yes, indeed. You are at KSKQ Radio and the Eartheart Radio Show. Fun song there from the Rumi Reggae album. That's called The Guest House. And I'm Derek Moody reminding you that on Tuesday nights we have a great night of programming. Well, the whole day is great on Tuesday. But Tuesday night starting at 7 p.m., check out a show called Carry It On with your host, Jeff Westergaard. And then at 9 o'clock until 11 p.m., a long-running show on KSKQ. It's Neon Madman's Radio with Scott Garriott. Two completely different shows playing awesome content that I never miss each week. And I would strongly advise, if you're home in these times of stay at home and take care of things inside, that you also have the radio tuned to KSKQ, because Carry It On and Neon Madman's Radio are essential listening in these crazy days. Daddy-o.
Saints, angels, avatars, sages, yogis, holy men, medicine women, helpers, elders, revolutionaries, and advocates of love. Today we honor and show love, respect, and gratitude.
Alas, one of my favorite parts of the show, I like to pay tribute to high-frequency folks, basically saints, or, people that resided in physical bodies temporarily, but let's all face it, beneath this actual existence, right beneath the surface of the one we're living and breathing, is a different and more complete reality, and this is not all there is, folks, in my opinion. So today, I'm a little bit late, I admit it, but I'm going to spotlight an Irish saint. Now, my birthday is the day before St. Patrick's Day, and I was just a little bit off in my timing, but I decided to spotlight the great St. Patrick, who some people say isn't so great. There's a little bit of controversy surrounding him, and there's also a lot of conflicting information, like much of the world. Misinformation is everywhere, and I admit even I get sucked in once in a while, but you have to check yourself, right? So today I'm going to spotlight St. Patrick. He was a 5th century Romano-British Christian missionary and bishop in Ireland. St. Patrick was known as the Apostle of Ireland. He is the primary patron saint of Ireland, the other patron saints being Brigitte of Kildare and Columba, who we have spotlighted on the show before. Columba being the patron saint of poets, if you'll remember. Patrick was never formally canonized. He's the founder of Christianity in Ireland, despite evidence of some earlier Christian presence in Ireland. When he was 16, St. Patrick was captured by Irish pirates from his home in Britain, and he was taken as a slave to Ireland. Did you know that? That's right. He looked after animals, and he cared for animals, and he lived there for about 6 years as a slave before escaping and returning to his family. St. Patrick's Day is observed on March 17th, the supposed date of his death. It's celebrated inside and outside Ireland as a religious and cultural holiday. I've always enjoyed St. Patrick's Day. Who doesn't like to wear a bit of green, eh? My actual roots are Scottish, I will admit. I guess Scotch-Irish. In the Diocese of Ireland, it is both a solemnity and a holy day of obligation. St. Patrick baptized thousands of people, by the way. thousands. He refused to accept gifts from kings, and legend credits Patrick with teaching the Irish about the doctrine of the Holy Trinity by showing people the shamrock, a three-leafed plant, using it to illustrate the Christian teaching of three persons in one God. The shamrock has since become a central symbol for St. Patrick's Day worldwide. St. Patrick did die on March the 17th, 461, in Saul, where ironically he built his very first church. Not a whole lot of information on St. Patrick, and if you have any ideas about saints or anybody that you would like to have covered on the show, feel free to send them to me at the Eartheart Radio Show on Facebook if you'd like. Or you can find Reverend Derek Moody on Facebook. I have a page on there as well, and you can send a message with any ideas that you'd like me to cover on the show. I'd like to play a song in honor of St. Patrick that I discovered by Derek Warfield. It's called Hail, Glorious St. Patrick, at the Eartheart Radio Show and, of course, KSKQ.
Namaste from Eartheart Radio and KSKQ.
Glorious Saint Patrick, dear saint of our isle, on us your poor children bestow a sweet smile. And now that you're high in your mansions above, on Erin's green valleys, look down with your love. On Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys, look down with your love. Your people now exiles on many a shore shall love and revere you till time is no more, and the fire you have kindled shall ever burn bright, its warmth undiminished, undying its light. On Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys, look down with your love. God bless and defend the sweet land of our birth, where the shamrock still blooms, and when you are on earth, and our hearts shall yet burn wherever we roam, for God and Saint Patrick and our native home. For God and Saint Patrick, for God and Saint Patrick, for God and Saint Patrick and our native home. Hail, glorious Saint Patrick, your Erin's great bride, watch down on the cells on the banks of the Clyde, with green and white banners, a cross and a prayer, where Erin's green valleys look down on Parkhead. Where Erin's green valleys, where Erin's green valleys, where Erin's green valleys look down on Parkhead. Hail, glorious Saint Patrick, dear saint of our isle, on us thy poor children bestow a sweet smile. And now that you are in your mansions above, on Erin's green valleys,
air, trees, water, animals. Eartheart Radio on KSKQ.
Good evening, my friends. Good afternoon, I should say. Thank you for being here at Eartheart Radio. All of a sudden, my headphones aren't working, and I'm not sure why. Really strange, man. I've got them turned up. Let's see, maybe things are coming unplugged here in the studio. It's much easier when you can actually hear yourself talking. I would like to say Locals Guide is proud to be an underwriter of KSKQ. Locals Guide is committed to community building through the creation of positive media. They offer a monthly magazine, mobile travel guides, and visitor information kiosks, which offer timely and accurate local information to people just like you all around the world. KSKQ thanks Locals Guide and listeners like you for supporting community radio.
Please let go of your fear. Positive news is here. Things aren't as bad as it seems, no matter what they say. News with an agenda is meant to instill fear. True news can instill hope.
This is true, and that's why every week here at Eartheart Radio Show, the positive news is shared happily. Positive news story number 1. The FDA okays historic blood treatment for COVID-19 and clinical trials to use antibodies from recovered patients. As the U.S. Food and Drug Administration works to facilitate expedited access to several investigative drug interventions to treat COVID-19 patients, one particularly promising treatment is now set to enter the clinical trials in New York. The convalescent plasma treatment involves drawing blood plasma out of an individual who has recovered from and built up immunity to COVID-19, testing the blood for the related antibody, and then injecting it into a sick patient so that the antibody can theoretically attack the virus for its new host. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said that it was a treatment he was very interested in pursuing as he tries to face down one of the largest outbreaks in the United States. The treatment will now be made available to those suffering severe or life-threatening symptoms of COVID-19 under the FDA's new emergency drug application procedure. New York health officials are hoping to recruit COVID patients from New Rochelle, ground zero for the state's infection, and the area with the largest cohort of people who have recovered, to see if any of them would be willing to be viable donors. Dr. Arturo Casadeval, chief of molecular microbiology and immunologist of Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, said, "It has a high likelihood of working, but we won't know whether it works until it's done," he told CNN. "We do know based on history it has a very good chance." He also says he's been overwhelmed by the number of people who do want to donate their plasma and at the number of doctors who do want to understand and deploy the treatment in countries around the world. That's good news, right? Here's positive news number 2. Beloved TV reporter broadcasts from home to help children with lessons on kindness. CBS reporter Steve Hartman is usually spending his work week traveling the country so he can shine a spotlight on some of America's most compassionate citizens and everyday heroes. Since the coronavirus has confined him to working from home, however, the newsman and father of 4 is continuing his quest for kindness by live streaming a week-long course for kindness. For each day of the week, Hartman has been broadcasting a different 30-minute lesson on kindness through the CBS News Facebook live stream. He's recently discussed the magic of empathy, but for every one of his kindness 101 classes, Hartman uses some of the most heartwarming segments of his week to illustrate the ongoing importance of kindness. Hartman's Kindness 101 classes are live streamed on the CBS Facebook page. That's cool. Such positive use of media. Positive news number 3, the science of kindness. This is very cool. We are all connected. This is something I would like to share with you that I read that was written or spoken by Dr. David Freiberg, MD, and founder of the Envision Kindness Group. Kindness connects people. It has become clear to me that being kind to someone else uplifts both people and creates a positive link between them. Many times I have read how people feel good after they help someone through volunteering or even holding a door open. I have felt it myself. If persuaded to explain why it feels so good, it is clear that helping someone else or simply witnessing kindness sets off a series of changes in the brain, similarly to the release of endorphins, the internal opiates. Spiritually, of course, helping someone is the right thing to do. The biological connection between my spiritual understanding and how I feel suggests that nature has wired me to do so. My body is reinforcing, rewarding these right things with pleasurable sensations. Similarly, the receiver also feels good because he or she has been... Similarly, the receiver also feels good because he or she has been acknowledged or valued. Acts of kindness create meaningful connections between people. Acts of kindness connect the giver and receiver to one another. Although we are unique individuals, our lives are part of a dynamic and vibrant larger network. What each of us does in that network influences many others and vice versa. We are in this together. We are critically connected by trees and nature. Without plant life, oxygen wouldn't be produced and carbon dioxide wouldn't be cleared. And since roughly half the oxygen on Earth comes from phytoplankton in the ocean, this means our oxygen-dependent lives are also tied to the sea. Phytoplankton, in turn, depend on waste and motion from larger sea creatures, such as whales. When someone disrupts these cycles, like deforestation or whale hunting, we share in the problems that follow. When we protect and nourish them, however, we honor their significance and are rewarded for it. In other words, what goes around comes around. Without trees and greenery, we would not survive. Short-sighted selfishness that overuses or abuses a component of this cycle will come back around to affect us. This is collective karma. The eminent conservationist John Muir wrote, "When one tugs at a single thing in nature, you find it attached to the rest of the world." That is, we are all connected. Thank you for listening to the Eartheart Radio Show. I am Derek Moody, and I would like to play a song by Jaya Lakshmi, who was a guest on the show not too long ago. This is from the CD entitled Buddha Lounge number 3. The song is called Radha Pranam. I've got some John Lennon on the way as well, if I can find the time, here at the Eartheart Radio Show in KSKQ.
Jaya Jaya
peace on earth. You're at the Eartheart Radio Show on KSKQ. KSKQ.
And thanks for being here. You just listened to Jaya Lakshmi with a cool tune called Radha Pranam. Jaya Lakshmi actually resides in Central Point, Oregon. I would like to give you a couple of quotes from the great Paramahansa Yogananda. Have you taken the time to read a good book lately, listeners? I would like to suggest Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And these two quotes are from Paramahansa Yogananda. Let my soul smile through my heart, and my heart smile through my eyes, that I may scatter rich smiles in sad hearts. Another quote from the great Paramahansa Yogananda. Possession of material riches without inner peace is like dying of thirst while bathing in a lake. How about once more? Possession of material riches without inner peace is like dying of thirst while bathing in a lake.
You've been listening to Eartheart Radio with your host, Shankara Das. Eartheart Radio is produced by Shankara Das in association with Sister Tracy and Krishna Consciousness. Please tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more Eartheart Radio.